Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into a legend, the legend of Killer Croc. We're going to try to make sense of all the chilling events that happened back in the 90s and how those events have shaped perceptions of him decades later. We're going to be looking at his origins, delve into his psyche, and really try to uncover his impact on Gotham, you know?
Right. The thing that makes this so interesting, this deep dive, is, well, it's the contrast between the concrete facts that we have from the case files and all the wild speculation they've created. You know, it's a story that really makes us face our fears while also questioning what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Let's start with what we know for sure. The official records name him Waylon Jones, also known as, Killer Croc. His superhuman abilities, the reptilian appearance, and the fact that he kind of prefers to be in the Gotham sewers, those are just facts.
Yeah, those are the facts, but the mystery is in his origins. Where did all of this come from? Was he part of some secret bioengineering project that went wrong? Or was he just, a sideshow performer who had a very rare genetic condition that just got worse over time? The case files don't really give us a clear answer, which, again, kind of just makes things more interesting, right?
Yeah, it's almost like the lack of an answer makes people imagine things,
Yeah.
It blurs the line between reality and urban legend.
Exactly, yeah. But to really understand the man, or the monster, maybe, we have to go deeper. We have these Arkham Tapes, a series of recordings that were made by Dr. Langstrom when he was researching Croc's blood.
Ah, yes. Langstrom, he was a genius, but also a bit controversial. He's known for his kind of own experiments with transformation. What was he hoping to find in that blood?
He was really focused on the mutagenic properties of the blood, hoping to see if there were any medical applications. He thought there might be a way to cure diseases or even figure out how regeneration works.
I see. So Croc provided his blood thinking it would help people. But Croc himself had a different take on his condition.
Yes, that's right. In the recordings, Croc talks about this overwhelming hunger, something that consumes him. He says it's not a mental illness. He says it comes directly from his blood, his mutated blood, right? A primal urge he can't really control.
Wow, that's a bit unsettling when you think about the footage we have of the operative who was sent down into the sewers to track Croc. Doesn't really paint a picture of a misunderstood soul, does it?
No, it really doesn't. The footage is, it's pretty graphic. It really shows how predatory Croc can be, and it seems to confirm what he was saying about that, uncontrollable hunger. It's a reminder that there are real dangers hiding just below the surface of society.
For sure. And speaking of danger, we can't just ignore Croc's encounter with Batman during that Arkham Manor riot, right? We have a pretty detailed account of the fight, but how Croc was actually defeated, well, that's still a mystery.
Yeah, the Arkham Manor riot was it was a chaotic mess. You had tons of inmates escaping, really pushing Gotham and Batman to their limits. So that Croc was part of that. That's not really surprising. But how was he stopped? We just don't know.
It makes you think, though, that it took more than just brute force, right?
Yeah, there had to be some serious strategy involved. We also have an audio clip from the encounter where Croc kind of greets Batman, and let's just say it's a chilling roar.
I know that recording. It still sends shivers down my spine every time. The raw power you hear in his voice, the aggression, almost animalistic.
It really gives you a sense of what Batman was up against. This wasn't just some thug. This was a creature driven by pure instinct, impossible to reason with.
It really does show you how skilled Batman is and resourceful that he was able to actually contain Croc during all that chaos. But, that whole encounter, along with other things that happened back then, they really had a big impact. It went way beyond that riot. Yeah. It's like Croc's story, his whole, existence, really tapped into something primal in Gotham.
You got it. Even though, all this was decades ago, you can still feel Croc's presence. It's like his stories become part of the city's urban legends, Stories about alligator men in the sewers, warnings to keep kids away from the water.
It's almost like he's become a boogeyman. Symbol of, the darkness that can just swallow you up if you get too close.
Right. And what's so interesting is how that fear has, shown up in different ways. We've seen these copycat criminals, people who are, trying to be like Croc. Maybe they want that same kind of primal power.
These copycats, I'm curious, are they all just drawn to violence, or is there something more to it, you think?
That's a good question. I think it's probably a mix of things. Some might just be drawn to that raw power, that Croc represents. It's like they want to unleash that darkness inside them. Others might see him as like a rebel, someone who's fighting back against a system that's rejected them.
I see what you're saying. So it's not just about fear, but also about how violence can be, empowering in a twisted way, I guess.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to the big debate about Killer Croc. Is he just a tragic figure who's cursed by his condition, or is he a monster driven by, basic instincts?
On the one hand, you have people who think he was just a victim of circumstance. Like his body changed, he was isolated, and that just fueled his anger.
Right. But then others just see him as pure evil. Some even think he's tied to some ancient dark force. And then there's that whole thing about a ravenous thousand young, which suggests that maybe there are others like Croc out there just waiting to come out.
Ugh, that's a creepy thought. Especially when you think about how Croc has affected Gotham, even all these years later. He's still there, not just in the stories, but in, like, the feeling of the city itself.
And that brings us to today, right? People are still wondering, is Croc out there? Is he lurking somewhere in the depths of Gotham? It's a fear that's taken hold, fueled by rumors and those weird disappearances that happen every now and then.
Yeah, it's unsettling. Even after all this time, Gotham's still living with the shadow of Killer Croc hanging over it.
It just shows you how powerful fear can be, and how stuff that happened in the past, it can still shape us today. Croc's story, it's become like a warning that even in the most civilized places, there's darkness lurking underneath.
But is it just fear, or is there something more to it? You mentioned that ravenous thousand young thing. Is there anything that actually proves there are others like Croc?
That's where things get really interesting. Lately, there have been a lot more reports of creatures, people seeing them in the sewers and the waterways around Gotham. A lot of people just dismiss it as more urban legends, but some people think it's something more,
So we're not just talking about copycats now. You're saying there could be like a whole new generation of these things inspired by Croc, or maybe even connected to him somehow.
That's the big question, the one everyone's asking. Some experts think that whatever caused Croc's transformation, it might have spread, maybe through the water or something else in the environment.
Man, that's a scary thought. It's like Croc's legacy is like these seeds that were planted, and now they're starting to grow in weird ways.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, is Gotham ready for this? Can they handle it? I mean, the city, the cops, the people, can they deal with a bunch of these things running around?
So what can we learn from all of this? From Croc's story, what happened back in the 90s, and how it's still affecting things now?
I think it shows us that we have to understand the past. Not just as stories, but as lessons. We got to see the patterns, the warning signs, and be ready to face that darkness, even when it starts small.
It's like a reminder that the line between man and monster, it can be blurry, and sometimes the scariest things are the ones that hide right in front of us.
Yeah, and maybe the biggest lesson is, even with all our technology, all our progress, we can't ignore those primal instincts, the ones that are still inside all of us.
So next time you hear someone talking about alligator men in the sewers, or things moving around down in the dark in Gotham, just remember Killer Croc.
His story makes us face our fears, makes us question what we think we know, and reminds us that the darkness, while it's never really gone, is just contained for now.